Yeah, okay. So, welcome once again to my desktop. We're going to take a brief preview of any folder that I have because that is the nature of a haphazard recording. Going to the desktop and looking at my random folders on my Tartarian folder has a vast and wide variety of Tartarian-ish type stuff. The reason that I'm starting my episode this way is to demonstrate a point in that no matter the subject matter that arises, the curiosities and interests within that subject matter for each person varies to a very slight degree, in my humble opinion. For instance, as many people see, poor Tartarians, the overtaken Tartarians, the destroyed, devastated, and misunderstood Tartarians. Now, there are a variety of historical narratives that are coming up from people's personal research and interests in Tartaria and the areas that were taken over. Who was there to take over the areas, and is it all just a fabricated history, or are we actually coming up with reasonably logical or accurate or semi-accurate conclusions and historical narratives for ourselves? This is a curiosity for myself specifically, and possibly you as well. So, the point I was making in the initial beginning of this alphabet is quite unique. The point I was making in the beginning of this is that any subject that I select from any folder in my system, once again, this is beautiful wallpaper and it matches the outfit very well. And they did have Chihuahuas back in the day. Right, I recall this is Genghis Khan in the background, being honored and worshipped and bowed and kowtowed to, with this guy with this great bowl on his head. Or a woman. It could be a woman. I think it's just a pleasant dude. He's probably a good dancer. And that's my humble opinion. Well, monarch right there. So, a Chinese Tartarian Empire. Right, some of the questions that have come up in these channels, and really enjoy the comparison in symbolism, the similarities between the owl, that is probably coming up here shortly. Very intense. These women are intense. Apparently. It's just my humble opinion. Not too happy in the middle. It looks like she might have a tummy ache or, Righto then. Bit of the old Tartarian. Investigating a folder in my Tartarian folder, which is quite shallow. I need to... Now, this is interesting if you look at their hats and these little orbs over their heads. That's kind of curious. It's quite blurry, but it's still a curious detail. And what's that behind them? Some sort of wagon wheel sort of a thing, I guess? I like those onion hats. Those are real electromagnetic absorption hats in some way. And the Tartarian Griffin. Say there, Griffin, drive me around the block once or twice. Yeah, I would not want one of those in my backyard. I mean, it'd be cool and everything, but it would rip you to pieces in a fraction of a second. The concept of having this creature is pretty wild. Wild and crazy. And once again, another depiction of a griffin, or the flag of Tartaria. And I have a collection of flags somewhere. This is, who is that? New Earth. New Earth uses this image. Sylvie Ivanova, excellent commentator. A little difficult on the volumes in those, but I'll put New Earth's link in. And a bit more Tartarian fashion. It looks awful fuzzy, very furry, very roadkill. That's pretty cool. He's probably an old alumni member of the Roadkill Cafe. These guys out shooting arrows. Always fun to shoot a few arrows. What's going on in the background here? The architecture appears to be, almost looks like as if it's from Chinese area, Mongolia. There's spires in the back over here. Little antiquitech, eh, Martin? Quite fascinating, Captain. Yeah, just taking a look at this. These hats with the feather coming out of the back end. Those are kind of neat. Yeah, it kind of emulates somebody like with a mohawk, or one of those large spiky mohawks. And of course, Genghis Khan stopped to take a portrait. Hello, I'm Genghis Khan, the White Stag. I bring up The White Stag. It's a book I read, one of the few books I ever read in my life when I was a kid. Little, extremely, with birds. And I think I'll just lean on my elbow and stare at the backside of a bird. Nice outfit. Let's bring back robes. Who's with me? And these boots, man, holy guacamole. Well, it's really the pants. The flappy overlying pants, I think that's still in style. And I want to bring it back. Let's bring it back, gang. That's the way we should be dressing once again. I think I mentioned about miso in a prior episode. I called this person Miso. And probably because of the hat, kind of looks like a half a moon, or possibly the horns of a bull. Miso. So that's curious fashion. And I suppose that this particular episode will be in dealing with the Tartarian fashion of the day. Each day, and see, that's part of the problem I've had with YouTube, is I can't decide. I mean, it seems like I'm going to run out of Sylvia Ivanova, New Earth Channel. Subscribe, join today. Right, the Tartarian fashion. I thought I would just run out of issues. I can only talk about one thing so much prior to my saying I've pretty much covered that, but no, I was wrong. When you look at the variety of fashions that are available throughout the world, and time, and then what time, swirling these turbans upon thine head is, I've never done it. I've never learned how to twirl a turban. I know how to tie a tie, and I know how to light a pipe. Let's see here. It's a pretty nice little hand gesture with a little pinky out. I think the pinky out thing kind of denotes a social class echelon sort of a symbolism, in my humble opinion. And then we have Birdie. It's a little birdie again. I really love the birds back in the days of Tartarian. And let's see here. Tartweedian habit of a lady. Oh, it's a habit. Okay, I see. She must be a nun because she has on a habit, I would imagine. I'm kidding. It's the opium pipe they're talking about, I would imagine, as a bad habit. And speaking of bad habits, Marty. I shouldn't have talked about this guy. His name probably isn't Marty, and that was a low blow. Marty, sorry about that. And speaking of low blows, how's your little brother? No, I'm kidding. Sister. All right, let's see. Habit of Tartarian. Oh, habit is the wardrobe. I gotcha. I was thinking they were like religious, and that was like a habit, like a nun has a habit. And I've had some bad habits. However, we must carry on and overcome our dispensation for idiocracy. In my humble opinion, then that's just me rambling with big words. And the climbing the pole. So the Tartarian fashion was the origin of this particular essay, and actually was the haphazard fashion of just going into a folder, taking a look at some of the information and details and curiosities within the images in that folder. And I do enjoy doing that in this channel as well. So, thank you for checking out this section of Tartarian fashion. I may go through a bit more. If you notice the size differences in this, I was switching subjects quickly. It's a bell and idol foundry, and so these are not actually giants, probably statues and bells. Bell and idol. And I suppose the main issue here is foundry, it's foundry. And when, foundries have always been interesting to me. If I were gifted a civilization, I would run out there in my little skirt with horns on and bang my drum, doom 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 doom, with my puppy dogs. No, what would I teach a civilization if I was actually gifted? A civilization, if I had all kinds of people and I were the smartest person and nobody knew anything, could I teach them how to set up a foundry? Could I teach them how to, or would I want to, how to smelt rocks and ore? Getting a bit off tangent, this is another Tartarian outfit, which is common in downtown Tartaria. The place is quite intense. Oh, I use that way too much. It makes me too tense. Okay, stop it. The Chihuahuas, Chihuahua, and then the people. The indoctrination and training of people. Could you do it? If you were given a civilization, could you teach them wonderful fashion, like this fashion? Or could you teach them smelting and foundry and how to start fires and how to build cities and how to be in tents and how to make tents and the fabrication and fashion of, civilized life, or intelligent or trained life? How much could you personally, I think about that, how much I could actually. So it's kind of like, well, what are you worth? What's the value? You're going to teach people just to make weapons and hop around on beautiful horses? It's a good-looking horse, I'm telling you that. It's a Tartarian horse. And in the background we see, just looking at the little sketch put together here. Little sketch indeed. A bit more Tartarian fashion. And the eagle I had mentioned, owl that I had mentioned that relates to the eagle in another part. Now, so all I've done here is gone through, opened up a folder that I had on my desktop, and, gone through the images in the folder for Tartarian fashion. Now, I've gone through maps, I've gone through architectural anomalies or curiosities in the building and the creation and making of buildings and their, what you might call ability through construction to trap electromagnetic. Now here, this is almost, doesn't this look a bit like Google Earth with the sections right there? Remember, I've brought that up in past videos where you've got these stitched together sections right here. And the curiosity, of course, is that this map, the age of this map in particular, is, it's pretty old. But it's stitched together. See how that doesn't quite line up? And if I go into Google Earth, of course you've seen that before. And I'll take a moment to point that out in this specific and particular production of a Haphazard Universe. In the meantime, kick back and enjoy a nice cold glass of water. Brought to you by the makers of water. Brought to you by Navigate in Google Earth. Google Earth, brought to you by Earth, Google, and Google Earth. All right. Now, what I was mentioning, of course, was the stitched together area, and I can take, doesn't matter where I go. I'm just going to go anywhere and zoom down in to make this point, this obvious point, that the sectioned areas, you see, as there are cut sections here and there, that I was just looking at right in this old map, cut sections here and there. And that's not just where the page folds. You see the image doesn't quite line up. And they may be separate photographs to make this one photograph, which really doesn't make that much sense. Right, so I don't want to hesitate or delay. Quickly, lad, quickly, I say. The point once again. This looks almost frighteningly like, come to think of it, a certain shape in our anatomy. But then that's just me. It could be a very large kitty cat. I'm not going to go there. Not in this particular one. But the point, once again, is how many issues, subjects, details, and how much information can we go through, and how many little mermaid bear butts am I going to have to look at during these haphazard YouTube productions? And I always want to get into the actual points, but the curiosity on the way to the points is a lot of the fun of our strange little place that we live in. And of course, you have your theorists saying, well, you've got all this, wasting of time. Wasting of time, well, you're satisfying curiosities for yourself, whether or not the electromagnetics of the planet shift during the period of time you're checking out the crown of Agaron, and you float up to the ceiling or what. I mean, things are going to happen the way they're going to happen during the period of time that you're living here and now. So let's just keep on keeping on and check out different curiosities. Istanbul, of course, was Constantinople at one time. And the curious changing of names. I mean, hey, leave it. I like Istanbul. That's fine. But I also like Constantinople. That's me, So I don't know. Maybe I'm just being bigoted. Throw sticks and stones. It's okay. It won't break my bones. Adrianopolis is a curious name. Adrianopolis. Don't add N's, mister. Don't do it. Thessalonicon. Oops, I added 2 N's there. Thessalonica was the name that I was searching for, and it has a salon right in the middle of Thessalonica. And Durazzo, it seems like it would take me a lot longer to say that name, but it didn't. So there's another confiscated curiosity that I like to bring up in my semi-moronic universe. And I am Greek, by the way, mostly, or according to my family. Now, I don't want to get into 23andMe and having a machine tell you all of the details of your life, but I found this curious because it seems here that the land has been split. Right. A little ragusa going on here. So, I hope I've made a couple of curious, interesting jokes and or points as well. The Knights Hospitaller. These are maritime empires, obviously, and I brought this map up originally in a past video because of Venice, the Venetians. The sneaky Phoenicians, possibly Venetians. And the beauty of their area and curiosity of the, Venetian cover-up? Phoenician cover-up. And I am ignorant of it, but I'm curious about it. And so these are the ways of investigation within the curious anomalies of sea serpents in the water just south of the Cuba. Hola, machismo. And right, now I'm just looking at some of these maps. So what do I have in my header now? I've got maps in Tartarian fashion, as I guess I would put it, and the sea serpents of the Caribbean. And flamingos, pink flamingos. That's probably a crane? No, flamingo. All right then. I don't want to keep from rambling too much in this particular essay, episode, and survey. Oh, there we go, South America, which I have called Africa like 8 times in past videos. Okay, I could blame my medication, but then I'd have to take more of it for that. However, Paraguay. Very many strange and actually interesting to bring up. A lot of. Now, as I have often mentioned in my past recordings, I am prone to just opening up a folder, going through the images in the folder, and communicating about those images. And I appreciate the amount of time that you have taken today to survey some of this. I am going to reload my folders, clean out my images, and restart in different areas concerning pretty much what you're looking at here, that which fascinates me personally. And going through some other people's comments and videos. Now I'm going to go into comments in this particular folder that is in Australia. This photograph is taken in Australia, and just curiosity to look at the lighting. However, I'm going to be going through comments and looking at a couple of videos and closing this episode. And so please feel free to join. There's so many issues and subjects that we will be going through, and it really does commonly for me to flit from flower to flower. It's the gust of wind that takes me in the direction of thought and inspiration to reach some magnitude of, of intelligence. Now, this is a sonic wave, and this is one of the things that I have been curious about, would like to do and investigate further, is the underground waves, as we just noticed in the last image. This is underwater sonic representation or photograph or image, and we should be doing that under the dirt and looking for buildings under, deep under the ground, and dragons and gold and swords and big long fish looking things. Plesiosaurus would be my guess on this. And I have loved to study dinosaurs and all sorts of other things that are curious, questionable details. Not to mention the current and direction of current and ways to communicate these things symbolically. And the lack of sandblasting. We should have cleaned this up a little more before we... I love this old stuff, and we are going to be investigating this, and I'm going to get into a little John Levi stuff here due to the comments coming up. So let's get into that. And now, getting into comments, here we have Ilka Fryman. Always a pleasure, asking which is better, living in a beautiful lie than living an ugly truth. If I could choose, I'd rather take a beautiful lie. And well taken, good man, Ilka Fryman. And a lot of people agree with that. And then there are those, of course, that don't. So unsubscribe. Sorry, I'm just really getting tired of the back and forth with subscriptions. Joseph Brandenburg, the Scary Game Show cult. Yeah, The Price is Right is there. Oh man, there are just so many innuendos in dealing with that. Ilka Fryman puts in a link to a video, John Levi's video on ancient American roots. And this is a great, of course, if anyone isn't subscribed to John Levy or John Levi, I would suggest you do it because he's the one people want the most. However, he goes through this structures that were in America. This actual writing that was this article, he's reading from an article, this particular article, and dealing with all of the wonderful things that were here from coast to coast, from top to bottom, from the shores of Lake Superior down to the sands of Florida, all of these structures that were already here. And that was written, that paper that he is reading from, I don't recall the specific date on it. However, just go to this. I'll leave the link and check out John's information. Yeah, because it's pretty obvious that throughout our entire world, and he talks about the structures in Mexico, in Peru, in South America, the amazing pyramids, and the 2x2 mile pyramid. I think it's fantastic or fascinating. The information that he covers in this, what's the name of it? He actually goes to this right here. It's Right, from a distance, looks like natural hill. So there were so many things that were here prior to us getting here. The false narratives in our history are brought up over and over, and important to look at, and fascinating to look at these structures themselves. The Copan Temple, Mexico, it says right here. So I wanted to show some of these comments. Thank you, Ilka Fryman, for that particular video. As I said, the link will be in my description. And Critch appreciates the Haphazard Productions. Thank you, Critch. And keep it haphazard, my friend. Your videos are great no matter what the subject. Fuck Bob Barker. Well, it's one of the few times I've used the F word. But have your pets spayed and neutered. And thank you, Critch, for your astute and uplifting comment. Now, 88 Shinto, you got to check out the channels Lieber and Stefan Reed AE map on Moon. It's like a mirror showing the craters. And I have a curiosity personally about that mirror image. And I've brought it up with, it's just some issues are so indirectly and directly related to our psyches, dealing with our planetarium reflection. When we look at something, we are reflecting upon what we are personally looking at. And that is one of the issues I covered in slightly. I brushed upon, I scratched the surface in how we see things as a reflection. And so, yes, thank you, 88 Shinto. I will get into Lieber and Stefan Reed and check that out. Digging deeply, digging deeper, deeper and deeper into the comments section. And, of course, Thomas Beasy, always a pleasure to hear from you. Thank you for the compliment. And Louis McPherson puts in a frequency of deception. Hold on there, Baba Louis.
To the Antarctica.
We have just looked into this in my last video. Thank you. I think I also opened this up for this reason in dealing with Robert at the observation deck and his astute and informative information. In dealing with how we are led, how we are misled, how we are fooled, how we are lied to. Right. This is what got me in trouble in the first place, Louis. Thanks. Thanks for all that. Now, I actually put a comment here. As you can see, Lance Reynard, the Haphazard Direction, 1 day ago, created similar content recently. Far more haphazardly. Always a pleasure. And thanks for the spells. Very much enjoyed your production. And I did enjoy this particular piece. The way he puts his information, conveys his details, talks about the confuscation that occurs with everyone and our ability to rise above it with our positive natures. And sorry, that didn't match with what I was talking about. Positive natures. And I do tend to go on to the curious details in our lives. Thank you, Louis. Yes, I actually am quite a fan of the observation deck. And what else do we have? Oldie but a goodie. In Joseph Brandenburg's, who's opened up the Haphazard sub-channel, which is exciting. Now, there are a couple of details with YouTube, and YouTube, what is going on with YouTube, and this place called Libri.
I'm pleased to have as our guest Mr. Galen Windsor from. His story is unique, to say the least.
Oh, Galen Windsor, of course, the guy that eats nuclear waste, and the guy that worked in the nuclear power plant and swam in the warm pools of nuclear. He's a top nuclear dude, and he was like just eating uranium and eating nuclear, what we call toxic waste, and just showing what a sham and a scam the government puts out or commits hundreds of millions of dollars to so-called nuclear waste, diminished or depleted plutonium and uranium that hasn't actually been. And yes, I would advise watching this man's information. It tends to get a little, well, he has so much information to give that it tends to get a little bit long-winded. That's just a forewarning, but definitely worth watching. Galen Windsor and the Nuclear Scare Scam. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just randomly play any bit of a section of this, since I've already given you some information, and just see where it starts out and what the universe has to say at this point.
And yet every day they are paying a tribute to the Secretary of Energy with the concurrence of the United States Congress and signed by the President of the United States in 1982, 83. Who was that? Ronald Reagan. They have provided those storage basins at ratepayer expense to retain ownership control of the plutonium resource. I started playing a game one day, 7 years ago. I says, okay, Portland General Electric, you've got the Trojan reactor, you've got a storage basin problem, I'm going to make you an offer. I made them an offer that says, I will take all of your spent fuel, FOB your basin, if you will give it to me. In other words, I will take it off your hands at no expense to you. I will ship it, I will store it, I will do everything that needs to be done to that fuel. And you know what they told me? Can I quote them? Go to hell, Galen Windsor. We value it more valuable than platinum or gold. We're going to play the plutonium futures ourselves. Itself is capable of storing all of the reusable uranium fuel that needs to be moved away from power reactors for the remainder of this century. We had that storage designed in 1975.
All right, wakey. This Galen Windsor has information about uranium, plutonium. It's educational, definitely. I find it curious also when I look at the science and technology, at the categories that people are listed in. I keep myself in entertainment for obvious and various reasons, but now I will put this link in my description. And it's just about becoming more aware of details, and that is why I get into these links. And looking at the directions that people have taken us, castle quarrying, right, this is a machine that a guy put together showing, and it's got an A-frame burying the coral castle apparatus. This is what I guess is a hypothesis on how he cut the coral. And good, little makeshift, a little curious. He's got an A-frame. I can't quite find the spot where there it is, showing that it's hanging on an A-frame and has a motor. But where it's being done up north, the coral castle. So this must just be a hypothesis experiment, and made by one man. This is how Ed cut the blocks at the Coral Castle. Interesting. Well, yeah, it's people projecting their hypotheses. It's not a bad thing to do at all. Thank you for that link, Joseph. Girl singing in chapel, awesome. Yeah, Melinda Kathleen Reese really did a nice. She's got a great voice, and I'm not really familiar with all of her work. So once again, thank you for these comments. I'm glad I was able to go through these briefly, and I have and these comments were dealing with the past few videos. I am a small channel on YouTube. I'm just beginning to come to understand how things are done with YouTube. So, I'm going to once again thank you for bearing with me and putting up with my learning curve. Notice this one says copyright claim. This one will be, I will be deleting this one because it has a copyright claim, and that claim is due to a short section by the BBC of a crab clicking its claw. So, let's get into the next part of this essay. Seismic activity, always a pleasure. But I saw somewhere in here, I'm absolutely convinced that it was in his channel that I saw he had been demonetized or something like that. Apparently it's just this viewer alert fake Patreon page set up on his channel. And yeah, I suppose, see, these are some
photographer? Join Guru Shots, the world's greatest photography game. Whether you like...
And so let's take a quick look at his viewer alert fake Patreon page setup in his name. Felony bank fraud. Huh. Okay.
You can start with $1, or you can give hundreds, however, thousands, whatever you want to give. And this description is just such, I mean, I would never say anything like this, guys, but let's just go ahead and read it. This is what whoever set up this fake account has written. No, not using any paywall to gate off content. If you love what I do and want to support its continuation, chip in, but do not feel obligated. Although I would love it if you did throw in a buck or so. If you do pledge, thanks for helping put food on my family's table.
Okay, so that's he's telling people this is a fake page once again.
So
and I'll enlarge it.
I've made a post on it on Twitter. I've made a post on it over on Facebook, and I've made a post on it on my Dutch Sense account. We're live now. There's 500 people watching. You guys can get the word out, but you can click on Community tab over here, and here's my post an hour ago, which has also reached about 100 people already, which is pretty good for just a little text post. But anyway, I'll tell you what, guys, it's reached a level with me. In case you don't know, let's just go show you again. This past week, YouTube removed my videos from US search, and up comes my backup channel now, Dutch Sense with a C and Copper Tropicals, my 8-year-old backup channel. And you just scroll down and down and down and down and down. You might find a few Dutch Sense videos with a S, my channel, my big channel. But the ones with a C, that's my backup, and Copper Tropicals has copy permission from me. Thank God. Otherwise, they would have completely removed me from list. But, I mean, all my videos stand. All my work stands. No matter what I've said in the past on other weird stuff. Lord knows I've had weird opinions on all kinds of stuff. Does not negate what I've talked about and the progression of earthquakes. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I could be a church lady with a Bible in my hand, beating the Bible, or I could have a bong and a bottle of whiskey in my hand, and it wouldn't negate what's going on here. I could be a scandalous person, I could be a proper person. Does not negate what's going on here with the progression of earthquakes. I'm right.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks for that heads up, gang. I really appreciate your comments. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I will continue to research and search out more fascinating subjects and interests for us to survey, purvey, and convey. Talk to you soon.